Hi. My previous video, Patriarchy, Abortion, Nasty Sex, and Yahweh's Misogyny, received a lot of attention. One person accused me of making up two things. He's wrong about one and right about the other. I'll talk about both these and also a couple of other comments this person made. One comment was kind of shocking to me. I'm going to present the pertinent parts of the comment piecemeal so I can respond after each thought. Here we go. Bottom line is that you just made that argument up. The purpose of the curse was not to cause a miscarriage. It doesn't show God approving of abortion or anyone else approving of abortion. And my response, it may be true that the purpose of the curse wasn't to cause an abortion. We'll talk about that later. But the thing is, I never said that was the purpose. I said that the purpose was to discover whether the woman had been with another man and to punish her for it. I also said that if the result Bible mentions when a woman is guilty actually happens and the woman happens to be pregnant, then a miscarriage would occur. The miscarriage would be a side effect. There is no way a woman's belly could swell and her thigh rot and the baby remain unharmed. Something bad is going on in that woman's body, and miscarriages happen for far less than a swollen belly. The ESV says the woman's womb would swell. The NLT says that water would cause her abdomen to swell and her womb shrivel. The NIV says the woman's abdomen would swell and her womb would miscarry. Have you ever put a grape out in the sun and watched it as it shriveled up into a raisin? I have, and as we know, it basically dries up. If a woman happens to be pregnant and her womb dries up or shrivels up, she's not going to remain pregnant. According to the Blue Letter Bible, the word being translated as womb means abdomen, womb, or body, and it states that it refers especially to the womb. It makes sense, of course, because of the context, that this is indeed referring to the womb. The word is used in a lot of places in the Old Testament where it means womb. For instance, in Genesis 25:23-24, where we read about two nations being in the womb of Rebekah. Now, let me ask you, if a woman went through this ordeal when she was pregnant, do you honestly think that she would continue to remain pregnant? I think we all know that no pregnancy would be viable in a shriveled up womb. Now, I didn't make anything up regarding this. The woman had been having sex. Nobody was going to check to see if she was pregnant. What are the chances that none of these women would ever be pregnant? Is it like 1 in a million? Surely some of them had to be. And I don't know how many, but the Bible doesn't state that if she was pregnant, this wasn't to be done to her. There's no exception contained in the passage. Therefore, if a man thought his pregnant wife had cheated, she could lose her baby. By the way, I did a little research on this bitter water ordeal. I'm going to quote some of what I found. Now, references are given that I didn't look up, but anyone who wishes to do so can. I'll simply provide the quotes. Check the article mentioned in the footnotes for references. Quote number 1, the passage states that the curse was washed into the water. It is thought that this idea derives from a belief that the words of a curse exist in their own right. Others argue that the curse is a euphemism for a miscarriage or infertility. Quote number 2, others maintain that since the word thigh is often used in the Bible as a euphemism for various reproductive organs, in this case, it may mean the uterus, the placenta, or an embryo, with the implicit threat of death resulting from possible childbirth complications. Quote number 3. Several commentaries on the Bible maintain that the ordeal is to be applied in the case of a woman who has become pregnant, allegedly by her extramarital lover. In this interpretation, the bitter potion could be an abortifacient, inducing a purposeful abortion or miscarriage if a woman is pregnant with a child which her husband alleges is another man's. If the fetus aborts as a result of the ordeal, this presumably confirms her guilt of adultery. Otherwise, her innocence is presumed if the fetus does not abort. One translation to follow this suggestion is the New International Version, which translates that the effect of the bitter water on an adulterous woman will be to make your womb miscarry and your abdomen swell. Such a translation is effectively reading the Hebrew word yarik to mean loins, a meaning it can carry. Quote number 4. Trials by ordeal are found in other societies of the ancient Near East, such as in the laws of Hammurabi. Pre-Islamic Arabic cultures similarly had an adultery ordeal, although in scientific terms, compared to the Israelite ritual, it relied more on nausea than on directly poisoning the woman. In this pre-Islamic Arabic ritual, the woman simply took oaths, attesting to her innocence and asking the divinity to cause her to have a miscarriage/abortion should she be lying. That's the end of the quotes. Since such trials by ordeal were performed not only by the Israelites but also by others, and it's stated that at least in some instances, this certainly caused an abortion and was actually the result of the guilty woman was supposed to suffer. I think the claim that I made something up regarding this can be ignored. I didn't even claim that a miscarriage was the goal. I view miscarriage as a side effect, but there are people who think it was the whole purpose of the administration of the bitter water. But here's what I don't understand. As I said in my previous article and video, to Christians, the big sins seem to be abortion and sexual issues. And of course, they particularly condemn women. But although abortion is evil in their eyes, baby killing is fine. Slavery is fine. And this boggles my mind. Yahweh himself killed King David's baby in punishment for David's adultery and murder. So why, despite this commenter's claim that Yahweh would not approve of abortion, would cause an abortion be unlike the ordinary behavior of Yahweh? If he killed a live baby of his precious David, why wouldn't he abort the baby of an everyday woman? We know David was more important to him than these random women. How in the name of sanity is baby killing, yes, even at the hands of humans, okay with Yahweh, but abortion is not? Sadly, the commenter seems to have missed the entire import of my video. It wasn't about Numbers 5. That was just a passage that I used as a springboard to talk about Yahweh's misogyny and the patriarchy and the view Christians have regarding sex, particularly when it's women having it. That's the problem. And neither the Hebrews nor Yahweh had a problem with causing a woman, pregnant or not, to have a shriveled up womb. And again, when her womb shriveled up, if she was pregnant, she surely miscarried. Back to the words of commenter. This is the second thing he said I made up. It is like how you assumed married men with more than one wife had 3 ways. You have no evidence of that. My response, yes, I assumed this. Of course, I have no evidence for it. And I thought it would be clear that this was what I assumed would happen, and apparently it was. Since any decent student of the Bible knows it says nothing about these men having threesomes. If I found that in the Bible, I'd have quoted it or given a reference. No, the Bible doesn't speak about this, but it does say that where there is no law, there is no transgression. There is no Old Testament law that says a man couldn't have sex with 2 of his wives at the same time. Is there something heinous about doing this, but nothing heinous about moving from one woman to the next? For crying out loud, who cares if they had threesomes? Wise King Solomon was spreading his seed among 1,000 women. When asked what a man can do sexually with his wives, Dave Whittle, a 7th-generation Latter-day Saint and descendant of polygamous pioneers, wrote that men couldn't rape their wives, cheat on them, or even watch porn. But other than that, the church stays out of our bedroom and tells priesthood leaders to stay out as well. We all know that even people who aren't in polygamous marriages have threesomes. Unless we want to pretend that men back in the day had no interest in such an arrangement. then I think we have to accept that it probably happened. Not necessarily, of course, but most likely. And as I said, Christians are fine with a man's being with one woman today and another tomorrow as long as he's married to both. But if he's with both at the same time, that's evil? That's disgusting? Well, you know something? I know for a fact that if Yahweh had said a man could have sex with both women at the same time, Christians would suddenly approve. They probably won't talk about it much, just as they don't talk about polygamy much, but they'd have no choice but to approve, as they must approve of baby killing and slavery. And all of this proves, by the way, that Christians who cry about how we get our morals from the Bible actually have no morals. The truth is, if they thought Yahweh said abortion was okay, they'd say it was fine and dandy and talk about how wise Yahweh was to give women that option. You know they would. I mean, it's obvious. After all, they say murdering a newborn child is good. There's no wickedness Christians won't stoop low enough to approve of when it comes to the evil writings of ancient Hebrews. I don't follow men, they proclaim, as if men didn't write everything in the Bible. But those men were inspired by God, Christians say. Really? Come on now, really? Christians, you don't even know these men. They could be the scum of the earth for all you know. And frankly, they pretty much sound like it to me. They say it's okay to murder babies. They say it's okay to punish children for what their fathers do. They say it's okay to buy and sell humans and that you can bequeath this property to your children. And you call all of this good and try to convince the rest of us that it's good. You think we have no morals if we don't approve of all the wickedness the Hebrews practice in worship and obedience to their God. You think I am not good while you approve of baby murder. And yes, you approve. It was your God's will, so you have to approve. But let me say again, just to be clear, I never said the Bible itself states that the patriarchs practice having sex with more than one woman at a time. Well, I probably said it, but I said, you know they do. I remember saying that. But I wasn't, and I'm sorry, okay? I should have been more clear. So I apologize for that. My point, the one I was trying to make, was that knowing human nature, we should all assume it happened. I believe that, but nobody else has to. One more thing about this particular issue. Just because I made it up or assumed it, that doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. Besides, how am I different from the writers of the documents contained in the Bible? I could claim I'm inspired. How would you know I'm not? After all, the person who accused me of making up things said this: when I am living as right as I can and a seeker of God, I feel His presence with me. I know I am not alone, and I have had a few times where God intervened and prevented me from having accidents. In addition, God has spoken to me in an audible voice. He called me to preach that way when I was 18 years old. He has healed me from chronic conditions. There are so many more things I could tell you, but it would fill a book. I know God is real. Now, I don't believe any of this, although I trust that the commenter does. However, if he thinks Yahweh audibly spoke to him and also healed him, then why wouldn't he also believe that the same blessings might have been bestowed upon me? Maybe I was moved by the Holy Spirit to understand a passage in the Bible that the commenter doesn't understand. Perhaps he received healing and was told what to do with his life, neither of which I received. But I was given understanding. Why couldn't that be? Why accuse me of making something up rather than thinking perhaps I have been granted some wisdom regarding a particular passage in the Bible? It's possible, right? But yeah, I did make it up. I assumed it. So I want to make that clear. Now, The commenter said a couple of other things I'd like to address. He said, I have news for you. I saw right through this, and what you think is shocking to Christians and will turn them away from God usually doesn't work. And I don't think it will. In fact, I know that most of the time it won't work. What I think should shock Christians and what ought to shock Christians rarely does. Here's another comment. There was an atheist at another place that thought pointing out God approved of slavery would turn everyone away from him, and he was wrong. My response, of course he was wrong. It doesn't matter what evil the Bible presents that is approved of the God of Israel. Christians don't turn away. But I don't write just for Christians. Yes, I hope they'll actually think about the wickedness they approve of, but I don't expect many of them to do that. I also write for those who already see the evil and have the integrity to turn away. People like hearing from others who view things the way they do. It's encouraging, it's validating. And the final comment I want to address, which I have to tell you is shocking to me, was this. We already knew it and don't care. There is really nothing you can come up with that will shock those of us who read the Bible. My response, we already knew it and don't care. I find that comment to be very sad. And yes, some of you did already know it. Maybe most of you did. And yes, I know you don't care. But I've never seen anybody come right out and willingly admit this. However, I do think some Christians don't know how evil the Bible is. In fact, I've known people who proclaim that the Bible doesn't talk about chattel slavery, although it obviously does. I've heard someone say regarding the issue of abortion, and it was said to me, God would never tell anyone to kill a baby. So either some Christians don't know how vile the Bible is, or they're just liars. I appreciate the commenter, as I appreciate all those who comment on my videos, and he behaves himself in a kind manner. Also, the Bible says iron sharpens iron. And because of the comment, I was inspired to learn more about the ordeal by water so that I could respond to this particular commenter. I hope this has helped to explain my thinking a little better. Thank you all. Bye.